Hi everyone, thank you for joining us on our second TNT for this week. It's Tuesday, it's the 13th of June. Appreciate you dropping in as we whip around Thailand, check some of the main news stories. I've put a couple of stories as links in the description today because they were either too long or they were just good stories. So we'll start with this story today, and this is reported by nationthailand.com. And it says Thai Airways plans to expand the fleet as tourism business picks up. That apparently is the new CEO for Thai Airways. And Thai Airways will purchase 51 aircraft by 2027 in line with its expansion plans to replace old aeroplanes. It's certainly been a bit of a topsy-turvy ride for Thai Airways. They've gone from bankruptcy to profit over the past 3 or 4 years, and they're now looking at buying some new aircraft. Let's try and figure out what they're doing. The Thai fleet comprises 65 aircraft, 45 of which are wide-bodied and 20 narrow-bodied. So when they're saying wide-bodied, they're talking about the twin-aisle, the two-aisled planes, and a narrow body is one with just a single aisle, the ones that most of us would be flying around on a domestic flight in Thailand on a day-to-day basis. And the Thai CEO, Chai Emsiri, said the 51 aircraft to be procured would be 10 Airbus A321neos. Now these are actually becoming a very popular new plane for airlines, the idea being that they're longer and they can fly a lot further than the older style of single-aisle aircraft. The idea of sitting in such a small 6-seater cross plane for more than about an hour horrifies me, but that's the way the airlines are going. 11 Airbus A350, they're sort of a long-distance twin-aisle aircraft of the new generation, and the remaining 30 would be other wide-body aircraft. Well, there's not much around in the way of new aircraft that are much bigger than the A350. Of course, Boeing has got their new 777 aircraft, which is still waiting for certification. And Chai said Thai is procuring the new aircraft to boost its competitiveness, as having just 45 wide-body aircraft in its fleet is not enough. He added that the Thai Smile Thai merger will be completed within this year. So it must have been about a decade ago that Thai Airways broke into two, and it had its small offshoot of Thai Smile, which was flying smaller aircraft, mostly domestic routes or sort of flying to holiday destinations. And they're now bringing them all back into one group, just Thai Airways, and I suppose we'll see the Thai Smile livery slowly disappear. So that's from Thai Airways, but let's have a talk about what's happening with tourism at the moment. And anecdotally, speaking to a number of hotel GMs in Bangkok yesterday, looks like the number of tourists is certainly softening as we get into the wet season this year. Now I've got some numbers here from Phuket Immigration. This is a report from March, and we can note, if we have a closer look, that during March, at the start of March, they were averaging around about 13,000 arrivals each day, and that was softening off to around about 11,000 by the end of March. And the yellow line in the graph is the number of hotel bookings. So that's the situation in March, and we can also see that back in March, and this is Phuket by the way, that there were 94,000 Russians arriving. By far, as you can see, the most numerous people coming from one particular country. But move ahead 2 months, and this is a report from May, and the situation's quite different. So as far as hotel bookings are concerned, you can see dropping off from 14,000 a day or a night down to around about 9,000 bookings each night. And as far as arrivals are concerned, it softened to a sort of an average during May of about 7,000 people per day. And that compares to the 11 to 13,000 that were arriving per day back in March. And as far as where the people are coming from, well, the number of Russians has certainly dropped off, and that's less than a third of the number of Russians arriving during March. And the number one arrivals are now from China. Australia, good old Australia with only 26 million people, is number 3. Then we've got India and Malaysia taking out the 4th and 5th position. So those numbers from Phuket Immigration showing the number of international visitors coming through the airport each day. You can map those numbers out generally across all of Thailand, And speaking to the people in Bangkok yesterday in the tourism and hospitality industry, they're all reporting that 35 to 50% sort of drop off from March to May. And looking forward, they say bookings are fairly soft. What's causing this? Well, the biggest problem really is still the cost of airline tickets. This and the world economic situation, all just making it a bit harder for people to come to Thailand at the moment, and hotels and tour groups are just going to have to cope with the lower numbers for probably an extended time, certainly this year's low season at least, and we'll hopefully looking for a pickup later on in the year. A big thanks to 5 Star Marine. If you are looking to head off Phuket to any of the islands, I think there's about 30 islands around Phuket, then I can highly recommend 5 Star Marine. There's a special deal in the description of this video for TNT viewers. It's our Tuesday TNT. Let's check the weather. And Thai PBS World reporting that no rain forecast for most of Thailand in July. And despite the fact that it's now the rainy season in Thailand, no rain is forecast for most of July, returning in August. And the Royal Irrigation Department instructed its officials to adjust their water management plans. And apparently the total volume of water in Thailand's 4 main reservoirs is about 45% of capacity. And the next paragraph, around the country, the average is about 52% of their capacities. I would have thought 52% here at the start of the wet season this year isn't a bad place to start as an average around Thailand. I know this island's had a lot worse, with less than 10% of water in its reservoirs starting the wet season, but the worst of the wet season, or the heaviest rain, comes usually in September and October. It's different depending on where you are around the country, but that's just an average again. So I would have thought, despite the fact they're not predicting much rain next month, that most of that rain usually comes at the end of the wet season. Now, this is a bit of a story of political intrigue. Reported by The Nation, evidence indicates conspiracy behind ITV share case against Pita. Now, this is actually quite a long article. I've just gone through some of the main points so you get the gist of it, but I've put a link to this story in the description for those people that want to read the full transcript. InTouch Holdings yesterday ordered its subsidiary ITV to investigate why the minutes from its latest shareholding meeting appeared to contradict an audio recording of the meeting itself. So apparently they've discovered that there is a disparity between what was actually said and what was reported in the official minutes. And the minutes were cited by political activist Rungkrai Likit Watana in his complaint to the Election Commission back on May the 9th, which set in motion the whole controversy around the shareholding. In an audio clip released by a former ITV reporter who now works for 3 Dimension News, Kim can be heard replying that ITV no longer operates in the media business. And Pita posted on Facebook last week that ITV had not operated as a media firm since March 2007, when its TV concession was terminated by the PM's office secretariat. Move Forward supporters say the inquiry will provide an excuse for pro-military senators not to vote for Pita as the next Prime Minister. They also fear the ITV share case could be sent to the Constitutional Court, the same agency that dissolved Move Forward's predecessor, Future Forward, in 2020. So the story centering around some sort of alleged conspiracy to change the minutes on a report about the ITV shares, those shares at the centre of that scandal. So I'm sure we're going to hear more about that and the people that are perhaps involved. Now, The Nation also reporting, nationthailand.com, Royalists urge senators to oppose Les Majeste law amendment. About 500 Royalists clad in yellow submitted a letter to the Senate on Monday urging them to oppose any amendment or abolition of the Les Majeste law. This is Article 112 of the Criminal Act, and it basically criminalises any criticism of the Thai monarch or members of the royal family. And the group was allowed to enter the Parliament building in Bangkok's Dusit district while policemen were deployed to ensure safety there. Now, if it was a group of 500 protesters against the Les Majeste law, I wonder whether they'd be let into the parliamentary grounds. And the group urged senators not to be pressured into voting for the Prime Minister or political parties who plan to amend the law. And there they are, all sitting there in their yellow, and I'm wondering how many of them were actually bussed in, or perhaps some of them may have been paid to have been there. And the group submitted its petition and the list of supporters to a senator before dispersing. So senators being lobbied from both sides, there will be some joint sitting of both houses of parliament sometime in July to decide who will be Thailand's next Prime Minister. Speaking of which, Coconuts Bangkok from coconuts.co, Pita Overdrive is Thailand's great democratic hope, a rising star or a supernova. And noting, by the way, that supernovas explode. Weeks before he strutted across Pride Week as a stylish ally with a gigawatt smile, he was little known outside political circles. Now, I've put a link in the description of this video to this fairly flowery article. I actually really enjoyed it, so I'll just read a few points here, but if you want to read the whole article, it's in the description. 4 weeks after Pita Limjaroenrat defeated the old guard with an uncompromising message of change, he's become not only the vessel for Thailand's hopes, but a new media superstar. Almost as stunning as the outcome of May's election has been the speed at which a cult of personality has risen around Pita. Can you imagine a cult of personality around a politician? Online and off, passionate fans obsess over his face, beaming in every direction from the television and the front page of TikTok. Despite all the glow, Pita is a long way from leading a government, and the old guard opposed to the change he represents are manoeuvring to deny his moment. As that reckoning approaches, the best hope for Pita and the plurality of voters may be making him too large of a target. Yeah, I mean, Pita and his PR gang has certainly wasted no time in cementing him in the eyes of many Thais as the future PM, putting together a coalition, meeting with industry leaders, and of course going to public events. And further down there, with articulate speeches heavy on youth appeal and a babyface magnetism that's turning him into an unlikely sex symbol, Pita has sucked up all the oxygen, even toppling a serial killer from the headlines of a crime-obsessed tabloid media. I should mention that it doesn't get much more tabloid than coconuts.co, but usually very well written. The fact that the news media now gush about how handsome Pita is, rather than the fact that he wants to remake the monarchy, is also helpful. Thailand is always proud of its international achievers, and many reports emphasise the party leader's high academic honours and trailblazing Harvard scholarship. So you can read the rest of that quite entertaining article in the description of today's video. That's from coconuts.co. And to the Nation Thailand.com now, PM pushes ambitious land bridge project in South to create a trade hub in Southeast Asia. By the way, this is the Caretaker Prime Minister, who's really literally got weeks in any role running the country. The Caretaker PM Prayut Chan-o-cha wants to expand transportation infrastructure to enhance the economic development of the southern region. And this includes connecting transportation between the Gulf of Thailand and the Andaman Sea. Now, this has been brought up any number of times over the past couple of decades. I'll explain a bit more exactly what the project is. Let's see what the article says. This project is intended to further enhance the advantages of Thailand's geographic location, which is conducive to transportation and trade. Relevant agencies have been instructed to study and develop the Southern Land Bridge project as part of the basic infrastructure development efforts to integrate seamless transportation services between the two seaports in Ranong and Chumpon provinces. So this is sort of the skinniest part of what they call that Isthmus of Kra, which is part of the Malaysian or the Malay Peninsula. And the connecting route between the two ports spans approximately 90 kilometres, consists of a 6-lane expressway and standard gauge railway tracks. Okay, so what is the idea of doing all this? Well, I think hopefully this will explain. We've got in yellow what currently happens with ships. They come out of the Northern Asia, Japan, Korea, China. They go down under Singapore. They come up through the Malacca Strait and then on to the west. Now the red line is what's being suggested, where they'd arrive in Thailand through the Gulf of Thailand in Chumpon You go across the land bridge through the middle there, then they'd connect with Ranong, reload their ships and head west. And there you've got the 90 kilometres across the Malay Peninsula, the skinniest part of the peninsula. Now, it's not the first time this has been suggested, and I don't know why the caretaker Prime Minister is bringing up this old story again. Many studies have been done, and this land bridge, in other words, taking all the stuff off the boats, going across the 90 kilometres, putting them on another set of boats and off they go again, is a new version of what used to be called the Kra Canal. And the Kra Canal, the idea there was going to be linking the Andaman Sea and the Gulf of Thailand with a canal, a bit like the Panama Canal. So they'd actually cut a hole or a channel right through the middle of the Malay Peninsula, connecting two ports. So in other words, the boats wouldn't have to unload and reload. The same ship could go right through the canal and then onward on its journey. But again, I don't know why the caretaker Prime Minister brings that up at this stage. Thanks for joining us on our TNT today, the second day of the week. Sean Stenning still in hospital, feeling not terribly well. Sean, we're all hoping that you get well soon and recover, because your boats and your staff need you. Thank you, by the way, for all your sponsorship and your ongoing support, and your ongoing support as well. We'll see you again tomorrow.